Let's maul in the Central Committee. Let's cringe in the Central Committee. Let's bog in the Central Committee right now.
Okay, well, Jamie, you're all set. You're showing, and we're good. Just a half an hour late, chat. We did it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have tried to readjust my fun employment schedule to get up at a more decent time. So it's been a process.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I've been there. I've shifted my sleep schedule to a normal sleep schedule now that I'm streaming in the mornings. All right, well, Jamie.
It's so weird, by the way, that I can't see you.
Yeah, I know.
I was thinking
about
a fucking JPEG of you looking totally different than you look now.
Yeah, this JPEG, I don't know where it's from. My computer picked it, and I never fixed it because I, never cared. So, Jamie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and talk about this stream and what you're doing now that you have moved on from MR?
Well, Mr. JPEG, I'm keeping busy, as they say. What am I doing? I've still got the Antifada, which is my baby and the thing I've always put the most heart and soul into. It's a communist podcast that I do with two brilliant, sometimes challenging men named Sean KB and AP Andy. Andy has many names. He's very infosec. But yeah, we put out an episode that is free for everyone to listen to every Wednesday. And then most Fridays, we put out a bonus for our patrons. And we've been putting out a lot of stuff that I'm proud of lately. I feel like we may have lost some of like the looseness of the early days when we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. But like we've done some interviews that I'm really proud of. Sorry, I just woke up. Like we had on Mike Davis to do a year in review. We talked about the movie Judas and the Black Messiah with like a member of the Black Panther Party who knew Fred Hampton, who is a contemporary of his in Chicago.
What did they think of that? Not to jump on your intro, but what did they think of the movie? Because we watched it as well.
They had a lot of issues with it, which is funny because like I actually liked it.
I loved it myself.
I could see how it would leave a little bit of room for shit lib perspective, but like it's the best, by far the best depiction of communists, let alone black communists, that I've seen from Hollywood in a very long time.
Right.
So I'm
it's typically the caricature you see in like Forrest Gump or something. Like whenever you see the Black Panthers, right?
Yeah. But I thought it went over, what they were about pretty well and didn't whitewash their revolutionary politics. It didn't turn them into some kind of like woke neoliberal.
Oh yeah. Oh Jesus Christ.
Anti-racist activists or whatever. But they got some things wrong, and if you were there, I can imagine it would be basically impossible to make a 2-hour movie that fully captured it. But they were they're very even-handed about it. And we had on an academic as well who studies the Black Panthers. And they were like, it would probably have taken a 10-hour movie to get everything that needed to be in there. And I understand that that's not how movies work. And more because they're good dialecticians, maybe it's a dialectic. This movie is not all good or all bad, but hopefully it'll get more people interested in the legacy of the Black Panther Party and what they did, and maybe inspire some people to learn more or get involved in political activities themselves.
So I sent you, I DM'd you on Twitter the link to the stream if you wanted to see me. I don't know why you would want to, but it's okay.
I do want to see you, but the chat is very distracting from my ADD brain.
Okay, just close it. Just ignore them. That's what I do, right, chat?
And it's also weird to look at myself on a slight delay. But
fair enough. Okay,
maybe I can just hide myself and just look at you on a slight delay.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's very weird. You look very different than your JPEG here.
Very well. I'll take different, and I'll assume that's a compliment.
Like, see, no, in your JPEG, you look like someone who calls into the Majority Report. Right?
That's probably because I was.
And now you look a little more like someone that I would talk to.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Well, I mean, I think that you were part of the reason that I've changed from a person that called into the Majority Report into a person that you would talk to. So thank you for your influence on MR. Do you want to talk about that at all? I should have asked you before the interview.
Nope.
Okay, good.
I think I'm good.
Good.
I'm going to keep my fucking mouth shut for once and see how that goes.
You need to teach me those skills because I don't know how to do that. That's really great. What we've been talking about on my stream lately, and I know that we're two white people, but I still think it's really important for us to acknowledge that right now is probably one of the most important trials in the last decade, if not longer, which is the trial of Derek Chauvin, the murderer of George Floyd. And what do you think about, this is something that somebody asked me, that gets asked about DSA all the time. I know you're involved in DSA a bit locally. What do you think it is about like DSA and its reputation as kind of more white and more educated, and our ability to be involved with racial justice protests and the opportunity and the necessity of like an anti-racist movement in the United States? How do you think that we can, as socialists, engage with that in a moment like this, which is so important for the movement?
Well, I think that's the $1 million question, really. I will say the trial, I'm not holding out great hope for the result of this trial. We have a majority white jury. No offense to white people, but
one of the jurors said all lives matter.
Yikes.
So
yeah,
that fact, when I found that out, made me feel like it's going to be tough to get a unanimous conviction on anything.
Yeah, it doesn't fill me with confidence. And, I was talking to a friend about it, and he pointed out, well, the jury reflects the racial makeup of the city. And I'm like, oh, great. Just what we need, a system that enshrines the tyranny of the majority over the minority. That's a cool system we have here. But I'm not holding out any great hope for the verdict. I also don't believe that this is ultimately how we get justice.
No.
As many people know, I am an abolitionist, and putting killer cops on trial, will not result in a conviction most of the time, but B, more importantly, it's not going to fix the underlying. I mean, maybe sometimes, never say never, but
well, I think there was one time that there's been a cop who's been convicted of killing an unarmed person, and it was a black man who killed a white Australian woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are lots and lots of factors working to make sure that the cops don't get convicted, because the cops are allowed to kill people. Like, that's part of what they're for. And they're also for terrorizing and oppressing surplus populations, people not currently required by the traditional, the formal capitalist economy. And not only that, but they create surplus populations as well, right? Because when you have cops going out into people's neighborhoods and arresting them for petty things, that's how you keep people oppressed and othered. So as an abolitionist, I really believe we need to look beyond the bourgeois justice system towards a revolutionary and abolitionist horizon.
Yeah, so this is a point where we could have a little bit of a back and forth, because I agree with that horizon 100%, but right in front of me is a murderer, Derek Chauvin, and I gotta be honest with you, chat. I want to use whatever means we can to provide justice to the family of George Floyd. And this guy walking around, because I have a principled objection to our criminal justice system, just strikes me as, it feels bad. It feels bad. Maybe it's an emotions argument and not a logic argument, but I want to see this guy be put away. I want to see justice for the family. And I want to see this as an example where we use this as a launching point toward building toward, an abolitionist horizon, because the big defense that I'm seeing, and I want your thoughts on this, Jamie, which is the big defense, because I've been watching a lot of this trial with my stream because I think it's important. is basically that Derek Chauvin just did what he's trained to do. That's the argument that they're going with.
Yeah, he did.
Exactly. And I think by exposing my community and others to the trial, you'll see the disgusting face of what policing is in our country. He's right. He did do what he was trained to do.
It's not just a couple of bad apples. Like this, the cops, if you look at some of these training manuals, they're basically trained to view everyone in a given neighborhood and everyone who looks a certain way as an enemy combatant. It's terrifying.
Have you looked at the like warrior training method that they have in American policing, where they basically act like they watch a bunch of videos of where cops were like attacked without warning, and they kind of train police to be always ready to like shoot and kill at the drop of a hat. That they train them in the idea that their main job is to get home at the end of the night, and train them in the idea, just as you said, that they are an occupying power, you know, in our cities.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this. I also know that the NYPD goes to train with the cops in Israel.
Of course they do. Oh my God.
If you need more evidence of the full, I'm gonna use a weird word. Just the amount of settler colonialism that exists in both societies. Well, here it is.
That's an interesting pivot point, because wouldn't you say that the NYPD training with Mossad or training with Israeli, Defense Force or Israeli police shows the international nature of these struggles? Like, we talk about, Black Lives Mattering in the United States and getting justice here. But in reality, all of these organizations, especially on the far right, are interconnected internationally.
Yeah.
And what do you think that means for, like, people who call themselves progressive, like Elizabeth Warren, and then they're out there advocating in favor of, like, military aid for Israel? Is that a coherent politics?
I mean, I do think it is a coherent politics within the confines of liberalism, which
expound on that.
Necessarily limited to the nation, this bourgeois nation state in the imperial core, right? I mean, liberalism tells us that everyone's kind of on their own, and that is a founding principle of it. So I think, I don't know, I've been rolling this around in my head as well, because there certainly are progressives who take a principled anti-war stance, but if they still believe in capitalism, if they still uphold this like the root cause of the imperialism and the wars, it's not a very coherent politics, in my opinion.
I was talking about this yesterday on my stream, which is a concept that a lot of people, when they first hear it, they kind of object to it. But it is, I think, very important for people to understand, and that is that racism is a modern concept. It's something that developed with, as you've raised before, settlers and colonialism. That is when the racial theories were advanced. That's when they were developed. The ideas that there are races of people, that's something that was actually written in the 1700s the first time. So it's inextricably linked with the development of capitalism, as Marx called it, the primitive accumulation that led to capitalism. A lot of that accumulation came at the expense of colonized and settled peoples around the world. And then those people were enslaved and they were exploited directly. And that created the capital that's, the capitalist system we have built itself on. What do you think about, like, the United States basically was arising at the exact same time racial theory was? Do you think that our, like, country can possibly exist in a non-racist form?
I mean, look, I don't think our country should exist at all. I'm just one of those crazy people who believes in a thing called communism, which means necessarily that we got to abolish the nation state. We got to abolish borders. And starting with this one would be great, because people can try to do socialism in other parts of the world, but the US is going to come fuck them up if we still exist. I say we. So yeah. Sorry, I'm really tired. I just woke up.
No,
This
it's
is
okay. You're doing great.
Some real galaxy brain shit. But the question was like, can we exist in a non-racist way?
Yeah.
I think in order to actually deal with the root causes of white supremacy, which are material, I would say largely, as opposed to idealist, right? It's just like some people got ideas in their heads and sometimes they get more racist for some mysterious reason. No, like, yes, these tendencies might exist in humans, but the way they manifest or don't is due to the underlying material factors. So much like Barack Obama, I believe that racism can be vanquished. Unlike Barack Obama, I think it's going to take a revolution to get there and not just some fucking tax credits or whatever.
Or Netflix documentary. I don't know if he's really even willing to fight for any tax credits. That really brings us to, to today. We have the Joe Biden administration. The Democrats are in nominal control of the government. And we again and again, we see the Lucy and the football type of situation with left-wing politics. I'll give it an example and I want your thoughts on it, which is Joe Biden. And in fact, the Democrats have been campaigning on a $15 minimum wage since 2016. That was one of the things that Bernie Sanders got put into the Democratic Party platform in 2016 was a $15 minimum wage. So here we are 6 years later, or 5 years later, and there is Democrats out there saying that they're against the $15 minimum wage. Do you think that there is actually a way of exercising this like electoral power, this political power for the left? Do you see like the labor movement growing in such a way that it could extract concessions, or are we going to be on this treadmill of never getting substantive issues, even as compromised as a $15 minimum wage?
I mean, look, I would like to tell you something good, but I really don't see it happening. Like, I think there has been a shift in terms of how the managers of this capitalist economy approach public policy.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing some like Keynesian stimulus being tried in a way that we have not seen since before the neoliberal turn of the 1970s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like clearly something's going on here. But if you look, there was actually a good article in Jacobin that kind of went over what made it into the stimulus bill and what didn't. The stuff that would have helped the most in terms of empowering workers rather than just like, charity for the poor, shall we say, like the minimum wage, like extended unemployment, stuff that would have increased worker power did not make it in there.
Right.
And I think that's by design. I think they're attempting to do this Keynesian stimulus in a way that will maybe help the poor a little bit, but not empower workers on a structural level. And workers are incredibly disempowered right now. That said, I am very inspired by the organizing campaign at Amazon in Bessemer, Alabama. I'm really hoping that succeeds, but even if it doesn't, hopefully people will keep the momentum going, keep having conversations with one another about how they're getting fucked over by the bosses. I will also say, okay, this is something that is important to understand. The line goes down. All right.
The line of profit?
What that
Tendency
means
of profit?
is we are in a crisis of profitability that began in the 1970s and continues to this day, despite all attempts at juicing more surplus value out of workers, right? See, we got a little graph here to show you the rates of profit on manufacturing in the US, Germany, and Japan, 1948 to 1999. The line's going down, folks. It doesn't go up. And that's a problem for workers because when the profits are high, it's easier for workers to claw back some of it for themselves. When profits are lower, it's harder for workers to do that because bosses are resistant. And what that says to me is not, oh, we just need to make the line go back up again, because that's not going to fucking happen. That era of capitalism is over. Industrial manufacturing was a uniquely profitable period, a phase of capitalism that is now over and has not yet been replaced with anything comparable. It's been replaced with a service economy. I can go over the reasons why, like the productivity gains of the manufacturing era were what enabled such massive growth. All this new technology, just like juicing up the relative surplus value, the amount of stuff produced per worker, per hour or whatever. Whereas now we have a service economy. Most of these things cannot be further automated, right? Like you can only improve, I guess you could get like diaper changing robots or something, but like think about a nurse.
It's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. Think about someone who cleans your house. Think about a nurse or whatever. Like you can't squeeze that much additional productivity out of those jobs and out of those people. So the growth is going to be a lot lower, which is all to say that, I mean, look, more and more evidence. We just got to do the thing.
You know, there's a couple things that you brought up. Actually, a lot of things in that answer. The first was like, you know, one of the things I've been most excited about with DSA is their organization around the PRO Act, because I think it is kind of a nexus of electoral issue and like structural organizing. I mean, basically, from where I come from in my politics is from the labor movement. That's the stuff that always motivated me. That's where I got my, you know, confidence that things can change. I've seen a lot of people win contracts, sign first contracts, get their wages increased, get much better benefits, see their lives change because of something that a bunch of regular people went and did. And, you know, DSA is really pushing for the PRO Act. If you don't know what that is, Chad, it's basically a piece of pro-union labor law that provides that it's much easier to organize a union. It puts massive fines against corporations that violate labor law and labor rights, and it helps facilitate easier, like the recognition of unions by employers and by the government. And basically, you know, DSA has decided that this is one of the pieces of legislation they wanted to get behind, and I think they've organized millions of phone calls already lobbying in favor of it. And then we see something like Bessemer, Alabama, which is, you know, Amazon right now. You talked about how we can't squeeze more productivity out of the worker. Well, Amazon is showing you the future that we live in, and it's a panopticon. It's hell. It's you, every moment of your working day is being monitored. And if you are not putting out units of productivity every couple seconds, you're going to get visited by Bill Lumbergh from Office Space, you know, and if you get dinged too many times because you went and take a piss, you're going to get fired. So what do you think about that front? Like, we have two possible paths in front of us. One where we rejuvenate the labor movement. And what are your thoughts on labor? And two, that you know, the issues in Alabama boding very poorly for all of us in the service sector. Yeah.
Well, this is the logistics sector, which is a little bit different. Yeah. And very important for anyone
logistics,
who is thinking about the R word, talking about the rev, talking about the thing. The thing that should be on everyone's minds. I think labor organizing is super important. I don't see a path to where we want to go, where we need to go, that doesn't involve organizing workers, because this exploitative relationship between bosses and workers forms the essential backbone of the capitalist world system. And workers right now are, their power is at an all-time low. They're alienated from their own labor. They're atomized. They're not supposed to talk to each other, even in these warehouses. A lot of people's labor is hidden from each other via these complex global supply chains, or because, more broadly, we're all just working from home. But I think they have done a good thing in a way by centralizing all of these people's work now in these giant warehouse centers where they can see each other and they can talk to each other. This kind of organizing, it helps workers to like get in touch with each other, to feel like they're not alone, and to feel like they have some kind of collective power. Now, there is a fundamental contradiction between a kind of business union, which basically accepts the existence of capitalism and just wants workers to get a better deal at their jobs. And, necessarily these business unions can be kind of bureaucratic, and the people running them are incentivized for to have labor peace between the bosses and the workers. There is a difference between that, obviously, and a vision of socialism where the workers actually take over the means of production and have control over their lives and their time and their creative powers. And, how much stuff do we actually need to make? How many hours a day do we actually need to work? And how many hours a day do we want to do other stuff that makes our lives worth living? So there's that essential contradiction. However, I think that we're so far away from that right now. Right. And like, if workers don't organize, my hope is once workers are talking to each other and workers are organizing and flexing their muscles and experiencing their collectivity, my hope is these kinds of struggles can overflow their bounds, win or lose, and become something different than they were when they started.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. My personal belief is that business unionism you're talking about is a sign of defeat. It's a sign of a labor movement in retreat. Where, if you feel like a strike is going to fail, then you avoid the strike. And then, you get into this pattern of behavior of constantly giving up without a fight. And then you lose the skills and the ability to fight. The generation of people that built that business unionism that's been the decline of the union movement during the neoliberal period, the people that go along to get along, the Randy Weingardens, the leader of the culinary union in Nevada, that are very closely tied to centrist Democrats and the AFL-CIO. There has been a long pattern of those people kind of like just not wanting to strike, not wanting to do actions. And on the other hand, there's another labor movement that was proposing like the Meidner plan in Sweden, talking about taking ownership of companies in the hands of the workers that worked at the companies, doing more and building towards like, even, you talked about Keynesian stimulus. What's really funny about him is he thought that as productivity increased, the amount of hours worked would drop. That was his big prediction. Like, well, if we're making twice as much stuff using the same amount of resources and the same amount of energy and time, we would work half as many hours. How much shit do you really need? And what he got wrong is the distribution has shifted. So as productivity has increased, the distribution has also gone the wrong way, meaning workers are getting less, even though they're producing more.
Well, I mean, I just read this chapter of Capital, so I could tell you all about it.
Yeah.
What happens in capitalism when you have technological advances, when you have machinery that helps workers become more productive? It's not that it frees up workers to work less, right? It's just that it enables the bosses to shift them around. So they're working the same amount or even more. They're just, they're doing other stuff. They're tending to the machines, or sometimes they get laid off and shifted to, shittier jobs. That happens too. But yeah, and the introduction of machinery really creates this kind of eternal arms race, because it's so hard for capitalists to gain a competitive advantage over one another. You invest capital, you have new machinery, right? That shit's going out of style real fucking fast. Right. So it incentivizes the bosses to try to speed up the rate of production during that short time period before the machine becomes obsolete. and before everyone else gets the same machine to, ratchet up their competitive advantage. And you can see how it incentivizes capitalists to squeeze the workers more and more and more. Also, they can just like turn up the speed on the machine, which is easier in many ways than going up to a worker who's like, I don't know, using a handicraft to make something and say like, you need to work faster. Like, no, just speed it up and introduce all these electronic monitoring devices.
Well,
like
Amazon is doing
Amazon.
both. Amazon's doing both. That's why it's kind of like the arch capitalism is in the Amazon warehouse now, which is like they invest in all these robots and these productivity increasers, but then they also go to the people and squeeze them, and they squeeze them until they are nothing. And then when they are, and they discard them, and they bring in this, they have this surplus labor. You talked about this as well with police, to link a conversation back to the surplus population, which is you have a constant population of desperate people that you can cycle through as necessary, and that provides you a scab labor force, right? When people are trying to organize to demand for a higher share of the productivity, well, you have a population of people that are desperate that you can bring in whenever someone tries to make a labor action. And then also, you can have them to underbid each other. And then you can just grind them up. When somebody is used up, you fire them. You hire another person. And that is kind of the capitalist playbook in a nutshell. And it's demanded by the capitalism, the capitalist system that we have.
Yeah, it benefits capital to have a segmented labor force. And I think one of the reasons, sadly, why we have never had a labor party in this country is because of racism dividing the working class, dividing worker from worker. Like we had on a friend of ours who infiltrated the alt-right and wrote a great article about it on the Intifada a couple years back. Time, what is time anymore? But he said, when white workers are saying a racial slur, you're playing with fire. It's not just that you're hurting someone's feelings, like you're hurting yourself and your own ability to organize as a class. And it's so hard it's hard to deal with it, because once these ideologies are ingrained, it's hard to change them. But like people have in the past, and I think that we can again. It's not just an eternal fact of humanity. But yeah, like capital benefits from having a segmented labor force in this country that is incredibly racialized. And I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, actually, I want to build off what you were saying, because one of the things that I talk about from time to time, and I want your thoughts on, is like the Luddites, right? Like in the UK, the Luddite movement, everybody knows them as like, quote, anti-technology, right? Like they were the people that threw their shoes in and they sabotaged machines. And what they actually represented, and the Luddites were right. Here's the thing that is funny about that. Well, they were partially right, but let me explain this. The Luddites lost their social position. They lost their ability to make income, and they never found an equivalent position. They were just liquidated. They just went away. The artisan class that made these crafts with skill, and they were able to command higher wages, went away and were replaced by workers at factories and machines that were much lower wage. So they got, we got cloth, but it was no longer something that was weaved by a master weaver. It came out of machines that with child laborers. And so their fear about economic dislocation was true, and they were never able to replace their position. So when they sabotaged those machines, they were correct on what the outcome was. Does that mean that machines are bad necessarily? Labor-saving devices are bad necessarily? No, they're only bad because of who gets the output. If some private person who doesn't do the work owns it and it's for their private benefit, then the labor-saving machines don't save any labor.
Yes, exactly. And I think the Luddites, they were on the right track because they saw the effects that machinery was having on the economy, but they weren't looking at the root cause of this, which is to say the capitalist social relations. Technology on its own is neither inherently good nor inherently bad. In a just world, it would free us from a whole lot of labor. Now, I'm also a little critical of the fully automated luxury communism idea. I don't want to get too far into the weeds with it. But,
no, please. What are you critical about it? This is good.
I mean, okay, I think it's often pegged to a kind of techno-utopianism to do with Keynesian stimulus, UBI, the idea that we could have income that is not pegged to labor is a good thing, but we also need to decouple income from profits because the rate of profit, it's shitty, folks. The line's going down. It's not going to be there. Even if it were politically possible to have a UBI that people could live on, that's not going to like they have this idea that we could kind of almost naturally evolve out of capitalism based on Keynesian policy of UBI and whatnot. And the profits are not there to support that. But more importantly, it doesn't solve the political problem because the people who own the means of production are not going to just be like, all right, we give up. It's not capitalism anymore. No, that's not going to fucking happen. But what was I going to say? Yeah, we need to decouple income from labor, which is a good idea that they have, and from profits, which is they have. Okay, if you want a more coherent explanation of this, you can listen to my Antifada episode with Aaron Bananov. He wrote a very good book called Automation and the Future of Work, which is sort of disguised as an automation theory book, but it's not. And I think that is good because then people pick it up and realize, oh shit, actually he's saying something else in here. But I think at the end of the day, technology is neither good nor bad. In a just world, it could be used to free us from labor, or you know what? It's up to the people to decide democratically. Maybe there are some tasks that people find value in. You know, a lot of people like to grow food for other people. Maybe we'll do it in a less efficient way that's less that's less taxing on the people doing it. But like maybe some people will be like, yeah, I like to garden. I want to do that still. I don't want a robot to grow my food. Just one example. But the point is technology should be serving humans and not the other way around.
I think one of the things that's people really, this is the capitalist realism problem, which is like people just look at these problems and they declare them bad. Like, automation causing job loss should not be bad. It's bad because our system requires you to have a job to have income. It's bad because the people who own the machines are the ones who get the production, not what we need for society.
Yeah. And it decreases worker power by de-skilling a job. If you're just putting a widget on a thing all day long, that's different and you have less power. You can't go off and do that on your own. Whereas if you're making a whole commodity, a whole car or something, that is something that you could go off and use as your means of subsistence or whatever. And to tie back in with racism, like they called automation N-wordification when it hit Detroit. Like this is
wow, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, just one more way to try to keep people down and keep Black people in shittier paying jobs. But sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
No. I'm glad you did, because that's kind of the point I was trying to make with the Luddites, that I didn't use the word de-skillification. That's exactly the concept I was going with, which is like you remove, the less complicated the job is, the more replaceable the worker, which means that the less power those workers have over the capitalists. It's something that we're seeing. I think one of the places where you're seeing that going to happen very soon is airline pilot. So like airline pilots, as an example, chat, are a highly skilled profession that takes like a lot of training time, and just like you have to have flown so many thousands of hours in certain complicated aircraft in order before you could even get the license to fly. So airline pilots are one of the most powerful non-public sector unions that we have in our country. And what automation is, that what they're focusing on is like, well, do we really need two pilots? Do we really need, do you need a pilot? Can a plane just fly itself? People make mistakes. And they're trying to focus on, basically making that job in particular less skilled, less necessary. And what will that do? That will increase the profitability of of flying these planes. It will reduce the worker power of pilots. They'll end up making less, even though they have more responsibilities. And you see this happen again and again and again within our economy.
God, I would not want to fly in one of those planes.
And just a drone plane? Would you fly in a drone plane?
No, I'm not going to ride in driverless car either. Like, no, absolutely not.
Well, I mean, like, it's funny because, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've been, it's funny because one of the things, like, Uber is one of the most malevolent forces in our society today.
Yeah, it was a bad bet on driverless cars. It didn't work out.
Yes.
If they had just marketed themselves as like a good app to taxi companies that already existed, they may have turned a fucking profit by now.
Well, here's the thing about Uber is you're exactly right. Like the reason why they got so much capital from public, from the hedge funds and from Wall Street was that idea that they would eventually replace the drivers. And just recently, I think this year or last year, they sold off their whole driverless car section of the business. That's not happening.
No.
And we used to see a lot of that propaganda about like, ooh, driverless cars, they're right around the corner. And that, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see that much anymore. I don't know about you, but where are the driverless car talk? It's gone away.
Well, some things can't be automated. Like, sorry. I don't think full automation is anywhere around the corner.
Of course it's not.
Pretty much what we see is what we have. And what was I going to say about this? I'm super interested in this topic because it's a trendy kind of discourse that I think leaves a lot out. I mean, look, if you agree with Marx, which I do, human labor is what creates surplus value. It's what creates profit for the bosses. And if you completely cut that out, you're not going to see profit anymore.
Did you see that Boston Dynamics actually released a video about a robot called Stretch, which is like a warehouse robot?
No.
Oh my God. So it's so funny because I found it really fascinating because this propaganda started to spread right as we are in the middle of this, as you mentioned earlier, this Amazon warehouse and Bessemer trying to, unionize. And then suddenly there's a Boston Dynamics release of, look, we have a logistics robot that can do the work of, if you don't mind, I'm going to just show it really quick on the screen for the chat.
Are you familiar with the videos of Blake Weber?
Blake Weber.
He basically does a Cartman voice over like a video of robots, and I like it.
You know what? I don't think I know that one. So chat, you're gonna have to find that. Jamie's been replaced by a robot. Yeah, automation is already kicking in.
Oh my God. No, like Sean and Andy almost convinced me that I was a replicant last night on the stream. It was pretty cool.
I mean, any of us.
A little window into how Sean used to treat me when I was tripping.
Oh, Jesus. Well, now I'm starting to understand a lot more about those dynamics of that relationship. Thank you for that insight. 20% of those have so you have this warehouse robot called Stretch, and it's basically unloading a container ship. And what I found fascinating is how you can see how the consent is being manufactured. This robot is nowhere near ready to replace a human. This is propaganda. This is edited. This is crap. And it's being put out right now because we have warehouse workers and logistics workers all over the country who are demanding to have, safe working conditions. They are demanding a fair wage. They're demanding, benefits. And out of the ether, suddenly there's this big release about how just around the corner they're going to be replaced. And you see the same thing with the $15 minimum wage with McDonald's workers, the $15 minimum wage. Mm-hmm. What do you think that is about our society that so many people buy into this idea that if you complain, then the machines are going to replace you?
I mean, look, the thing you need to understand about capitalists is they're not just providing you a job to be nice. Like, if it were profitable, to replace workers fully with robots, they would have done it already.
Exactly.
And the fact that they have, I mean, they can fucking try. I mean, also a lot of capitalists don't really understand capitalism that well. They don't understand, to quote to quote my illustrated Capital book that I read before I tackled the full version, which I'm like, I highly recommend it to everyone.
Good book. I have it.
Capital Illustrated, David Smith. It's good if you need to get the basics inside of you really fast. Like maybe you just got a job where you have to like talk on camera about your politics. I don't know. But like, yeah. So what this book told me, and it's very easy to remember, if C is the organic composition of capital, okay? That is basically everything that's not human labor, the machines, the buildings, whatever. And that doesn't generate surplus value. So when C rises, right, when the greater proportion of capital is invested into that stuff as opposed to human labor, there tend to be crises of profitability. That's right, kids. When C rises, there tend to be crises. And
very easy to remember.
It's very easy to remember. They also have some like charts and graphs at in the afterword of the book to show you how this has all come to pass. So like, yeah, I guess capitalists have this fantasy that they're gonna have, 100% organic composition of capital, and they're still gonna make a profit that way somehow, and they're still
who
gonna
are they selling it to?
People to buy their product. Exactly. Well, according to the UBI people, there's still going to be profits in this world, which honestly, like when you don't need human labor anymore, you're out of capitalism and into something else, something that might be.
Yes.
Like I just don't see this state of affairs either A, coming to pass, or B, lasting very long. But I guess they think that Amazon will still have profits, and it'll just, we'll skim off the top of those profits to give everyone a UBI, I suppose. But that just doesn't work. Like, I don't think that's gonna work.
It's ridiculous because
like you need human labor power to create profits, and people have tried and failed to eliminate the need for workers. You still need workers. Sorry, that's just the fundamental equation, the fundamental formula of capitalism.
Well, one of the things you're absolutely right. What's really funny about that is even if you drive labor costs to zero from their own models, why would you be running the machines? Why are you paying for energy? That means asset values will spike. So you have a speculation bubble. You have a speculation crisis. Like then everybody who owns, raw materials can charge more because there's going to be more ability to produce. And then if you could just manufacture a human replacement robot for $100 or $1,000 or whatever, you said something very intelligent, which is, why would they stop? You keep manufacturing more of these robots, and you end up driving the prices even lower because you have even more productivity. And where does it end? You have 1 million units of socks, and there's only 5 feet to put them on. Like, why would you even run those machines anymore? All those factories then start to go idle because you're not using that. There's no one to consume this product, and capital requires consumption. That's the mode of production. That's the society. That's what we need. That's our relationship to it. You have to do, it's like planned obsolescence. This is something that we might want to talk about. Like with light bulbs, when light bulbs were first invented, they actually every year, the amount of hours they lasted increased. And then it got to a crisis point where they were lasting 5,000 hours, and the bulb manufacturers were selling less bulbs each year, even though light bulbs were becoming more, electric lighting was becoming more and more ubiquitous. They were selling less. So they formed a cartel to intentionally shorten how long light bulbs last. Because otherwise, they wouldn't be able to create a profitable enterprise in selling light bulbs.
Yeah. If you can't see the waste inherent in that system,
it's absurd.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, folks. And, we'd still have environmental problems, but I really think the only way we're going to have a prayer of a chance at solving them is by taking over democratic control and producing things based on their use value, their utility to humanity.
Exactly.
Distributing them based on human needs. Like, oh, well, I guess we have enough cars now. We can stop making them. Rather than their exchange value on the marketplace.
Well, that does sound like a little bit of planning would be required. Some sort of somebody at the Grand Heights, you know.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
I mean, you did name your Twitch stream Central
right.
Committee.
That's right. I mean, because at the end of the day, I just, you know, I look at the challenges we face globally, like right now, like climate change. And that's a crisis of not only capitalism, but also our industrial system. Where we produce all this stuff by ripping out, you know, carbon out of the deep earth and then putting it into our atmosphere. And that changes our ecology. That changes, you know, the environment that we live in, and it will kill us. If we do not start taking a holistic view of the planet and start controlling the fact that you can't just produce CO2s. You know, I can't allow another, like if I produce no CO2, but another country somewhere else produces a whole, or another region produces, if you don't like countries, some other community produces a bunch of CO2 and that affects me, that could destroy the planet and kill me. So we have to do something to control that in an international cooperative manner. Mm-hmm. And there's really no other way to do it if we want to continue to survive as a species.
Yeah. And as long as, you know, developing nations are forced to compete on a capitalist world market, like, look, the US could say, oh, hey, developing nations, I know that we use nature as an infinite free gift when we were industrializing in our country, but now we know that that's bad and you shouldn't do that. Those developing nations would be well within their rights to be like, fuck off, man. Like, we want a standard of living for our people too. So what are the options there?
Exactly.
The US could, I guess, buy them off, give them lots of money, give them lots of technology. Not sure that we have the surplus to do that at this point in time. The US can, you know, use a stick with its, you know, it's still mighty military, although it is declining in the world. I just don't see any of those things working terribly well in the long term. Like it's just, it's like a really obvious thing that a lot of people have just been trained not to want to recognize because it is scary. Like it's fucking scary.
No, I think COVID has made me more pessimistic than ever because like COVID is something where it's so clear there's a virus. We can see the virus. You cough out the virus onto someone else and they die. And so there's a clear causality. It's very, you know, close in time to the event. And yet still people, a large segment of this population has now made wearing a mask or socially distancing into a like culture war thing where you're not a real man or not a real American or whatever if you wear a mask. And it's killed 500,000 people and people just wander around like, whatever. Climate change is like COVID, except much more difficult to see. Like when I start my car and drive it around and that causes CO2, the effects of that are going to be it's going to take years for that to come back around and affect me. But it is just like COVID. It is a scientific certainty. We can see it. We see it coming. The causality is clear. So if we can't get people to wear masks and be, you know, stay at home without going down this path of insanity, what are we going to do when it's like, okay, we need to stop, I don't know, driving cars like this or some other massive disruptive change? I just don't see that ever happening.
Yeah, no. But look, even if it were possible for capitalism to solve climate change, which I don't think it is, but say Elon Musk invents some like magical carbon scrubber tomorrow, right? We still have to end capitalism. If you believe in if you agree with Marx's critique of political economy, this shit is not stable. It can't go this way forever. It's wildly more unstable than feudalism, and feudalism ended. So like what makes people think that this is so special in the history of humanity, in the history of modes of production that we have had running the world? This is going to be the first one that lasts forever? Fuck off. I don't think so.
Well, it hasn't even been around that long. You know, it's what I said, you know, it's the same thing with racism. It actually hasn't been around all that long, but people pretend like it's just the final stage.
Origins. It has specific origins in history, material origins in history. Therefore, it could pass away again through other material processes.
I don't think that, I mean, like maybe some people really are deluded that that's not the case, but I think that most people who are fighting to maintain capitalism are those people that are benefiting from it. or they have been trained so completely that they can't, they can't even see beyond what we have. This is something that's really interesting, and we try to touch on this from time to time, but the way that capitalism replicates itself in our own minds, right? Where we can't even foresee the alternatives. I know there's a famous quote from Marx where he talks about he didn't want to write the recipes for the cook shops of the future. Mm-hmm. And what he was
very much against utopianism. Go on.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and utopianism in the sense of, do you mean like convincing the elites through argument, or do you mean utopianism?
Oh yeah, I mean that's slip shit. But he thought because utopian socialists came before him, like Fourier. Right. And they just envisioned this nice socialist world. How do we get there? Those details are fuzzy. Were they connected to a working class movement? No, not really. And Marx is like, that's nonsense. It has to emerge from the conditions at the place and the time. Right. But like, I think it's good to get a few ideas on our vision board. But Marx he really like mathified it. He's like, okay, I'm going to turn this into a science now, an immortal science, in fact, and show you because if all you have for socialism is a moral argument, like you can make a moral argument for anything.
Yes.
Like the Christian fundamentalists are making a moral argument and they think that they're right. And, I'm a socialist and I think that I'm right. I think people deserve control over their bodies and their time and their creative powers. But, if all you have is a moral argument, that's shakier than if you're like, all right, also here's the numbers, here's how the shit actually works. Here's how it's set up. Cause also like, I don't rely on everybody to be good. Like I'm a socialist. I have a lot more faith in humanity, certainly, than a liberal who just wants a perfect state. But like, I don't think we should build a system that relies completely on people's, innate goodness, right? I think it makes a lot more sense to appeal to people's self-interest too, and be like, hey, workers of the world, you're getting a raw fucking deal. You want to work less and you want to have a better life. And you want to, the way that you do that is you unite with each other and take care of each other and have like a functioning, nice socialist society where everyone, it's from each according to their abilities to each according to their needs, So you got to have the moral case is not unimportant, but I think the logical case is important as well. And Marx was a big logic bro. So luckily we have a bunch of nice books.
I just wish he had a Twitter account. If I could go back in time, I would just drop a smartphone off. He was
a total shit poster. I'm sorry. I have to pee real quick. It's like I still just got up a few hours ago, and my body is catching up to my brain now. But I want to finish this out without being like, all right, bye.
All right.
Maybe you could play some of the robot videos, some of the Blake Weber robot videos.
Well, how much longer do you want to go? It's fine.
Couple few minutes. BRB.
Okay, BRB. I'll show you guys the robot video again. Check this out. All right, so this is the robot video.
Traditional automation in a warehouse is fixed to the ground and often can't handle a variety of tasks. Stretch is designed to go into some of the most difficult environments in a warehouse and handle dull, dirty, dangerous, physical work.
Okay, first of all, it's grabbing the box by the top. There must not be much stuff in there.
And only about 20% of those have sophisticated warehouse automation tools installed within them. The thing that makes Stretch so unique is that it's able to move around the warehouse and handle a variety of tasks without having to stand up a lot of fixed automation and fixed infrastructure to support it. That means that a warehouse doesn't have to shut down for several weeks in order to get Stretch up and running in their operations. This is enabled by the computer vision system that is installed in the robot. So the robot is able to look at a mess of boxes and be able to figure out,
if it pays union dues.
I can figure out how
to grab it. All right, speaking of that, chat, I had a really viral clip that I wanted to show you. That is really good. Hold on. About this on union dues. Check this out. We could totally change like our screen, but I don't feel like it.
So there's a lot of talk about unions. One of corporations' favorite anti-union talking points are union dues. So let me tell you what I get for my $52 a month. Currently make $24 an hour in 2024. I'll be making $26 an hour. All my raises are pre-negotiated 5 years in advance, and every 5 years we renegotiate. My health care is beyond what they call a Cadillac plan and is 100% paid for. I don't pay a dime towards it. I have a $20 copay for doctor's visits, $10 for mental health, $100 for an emergency, and a total out-of-pocket maximum of $150 only for medical equipment. After 30 years of service, I'm guaranteed $1,300 a month for the remainder of my life. I have every single major holiday off and paid. I have 5 paid sick days, 3 paid personal days, 2 weeks paid vacation, going to 3 with 8 years of service, with a total maximum of up to 5 weeks paid vacation after 30 years. I can elect to work those holidays for triple time. I get overtime over 8 hours, time and a half all day on a 6th work day, double time on a 7th. So for that $52 a month, it takes 2 hours and 10 minutes to make. I'm doing pretty good. So there's a
So there you go, chat. That is what being in a union is like. Not saying it's all peaches and cream, but you definitely there's a value, because the first thing that Amazon does, or any of these union busters, is they talk about the cost of you have a precarious person making $50 an hour, and somebody says you're gonna have to pay $600 a year in union dues, and they sit there and they have beads of cold sweat going down their face because they can't afford to lose any money. And unions are pretty much not allowed to say, we will get you more pay. But all the evidence is that unionized workers make significantly more than their non-union counterparts, which of course they do.
Oh my God. I'm back. Hi.
Hey, you're back.
One of many PR triumphs that Amazon has had so far is convincing people that $15 an hour is a good rate to work in a warehouse. Like, they're comparing it with fast food jobs or things that are much less physically taxing, when they should be comparing it to other warehouse jobs like in the area, which all pay more. But when Amazon moves into a place, it actually depresses wages for everyone at a warehouse.
That's such a good point, because like the fight for 15 chat started with fast food workers. I think it was 2013, might be 2012. And they were fighting for 15 for fast food. And here's the thing. I don't want to denigrate fast food work. That's hard work. That is dirty work. I don't want to have a fast food job. But logistics, working in a warehouse, that's a semi-skilled job in most of the cases. And it is very physically taxing. Amazon workers talk about walking 15, 20 miles a day, carrying shit. Like, that is extremely taxing. So the $15 an hour, which was a movement, started with fast food workers, embraced by SEIU, and made into a national movement, was something for like any job. And Amazon has, changed that to, wow, you're being paid $50 an hour. You are making a lot of money. I'm sorry, $50 an hour is not a lot of money.
No,
it's not.
Never underestimate capital's ability to recuperate social movements of any kind.
Right. It's disgusting. And it's funny because Amazon, just as a point of historical fact checking for Amazon, the reason why they did the $50 minimum wage is because Bernie Sanders wrote a bill called the Stop Bezos Act, which was specifically designed to target large corporations like Amazon and tax them if their employees were on public assistance. It was a strategy of like, hey, you are so extremely exploiting these employees, and you're using government subsidies to do it. Walmart, Amazon, if you're going to pay your workers $10 an hour and get them to sign up for food stamps, we're going to tax you for the charge of the food stamps for the taxpayer and for the government. And they decided to raise their wage just to avoid that specific law that Bernie Sanders created. So he pressured them to do it. They didn't do it because they're good people or that they're a, quote, progressive workplace. That's just a total fucking lie.
Oh, the Bernie Sanders of employers.
The Bernie Sanders of employers. But we actually provide it. And what do you think about that? That's actually something that I think would be right up your alley. What do you think about the Amazon posting? And what does that say about where we are politically, that they feel confident enough to do shit like that?
I don't know, man. Like, you would think that they would have a slicker operation than that. And in many ways, that's just one of many, like most of their PR that they've spent money on has worked. So, like, I don't want to get too cocky about like the, ridiculous low follower Twitter accounts that are like Amazon Jeff. I
Yeah.
love working at Amazon. We don't need a union.
Yeah.
Like a lot of their propaganda has worked, and if the vote loses, it's going to be because of that. But yeah, maybe they're getting a little bit cocky because they're like, we have so much power. How dare you? Like, I don't know what's up with that, but
Yeah,
I mean, it does show that people are starting to like get wise to the fact that this is bullshit.
Well, they have spent an ungodly amount of money on the union busting. This is something that I think more leftists should understand. Is I think they're spending something like, what was it, chat, $25,000 a day or something on their anti-union efforts, just in that Bessemer, and it should really show you something about how scared they are of a unionized workplace, and how much power that would give the workers that they're spending this much time, money, and effort on it.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to bring this in as well. All right. Logistical workers are a very important part of capitalist circulation. And any kind of revolutionary politics is going to have to be extremely concerned with keeping supply lines open.
Oh, of course.
Controlling the logistical points. These are very important workers if we want to, have a successful revolution. So, among other reasons, everyone read Endnotes. Everyone read Logistics, Counter Logistics, and the Communist Prospect by my friend Jasper Burns. It's really long, so maybe I should summarize it for you. I don't know. We got to keep the supply lines open and expropriate the logistical points.
Well, I mean, this is how I know you're serious, because when people talk about revolutions or they talk about these specific instances in history, they don't elaborate on why a lot of them failed. For example, like, it was just recently the anniversary of the Paris Commune, and one of the reasons that they failed is they didn't have secure supply lines. They didn't have a coherent way to deal with reaction. It's great to stand the barricades, but the purpose is to control your community. The purpose is not to die a glorious defeat. I don't want to be some sort of quixotic martyr. I want to win. And
you run out of food.
Exactly. Running out of food is not good. Not good, folks. And when you look at the seriousness of what it would take to overturn capital, and capital is going to resist, the people that have all this wealth and power are not going to want to give it up, no matter how strong the arguments, no matter how just. They're going to use every means necessary to keep their position and their power and their privilege. They're not going to give it up. And to do something, we're going to have to be well versed in the practical means of resistance. So that involves like the military arts. That means logistics. Just read your history.
Gotta keep everyone fed. Gotta be very concerned with production. And this is why I like, because I've dabbled in some communization theory. So like there are people sort of on the extreme end of the spectrum who are like, we gotta have a riot that turns into communism. I'm like, no, actually, the average grocery store has stocked for like a few days of food maximum, and everyone's gonna get hungry and give up and go home, and your communization party is gonna be over really fucking fast. Which is why I like writers like the Angry Workers of the World. They have a really good website, and they're first and foremost concerned with production and the composition of the global working class. Who's making the food? Where does the food come from? How does it get from here to there? That's super, super important if you're serious about something called communism, which I am. And we had them on the Intifada as well. I hate to be a self-promoter, but I thought it was a pretty good episode. And they also, if you don't want to listen to my podcast for whatever reason, you can read their book, Class Power on 0 Hours, or you don't have a lot of time, you just read their article on insurrection and production, which is like a very detailed attempt to think through how an insurrection, a successful proletarian insurrection, could go in the United Kingdom over there on Turf Island. So check that out. Check that out, folks. Also, I love it. I love the boat so much.
The boat? I know. I showed my chat the bimbification of the boat that you posted. I showed it to everybody. Everybody remembers the bimbification of the boat. Maybe I should just pull it up because.
Oh boy. And I felt bad. Like someone texted this in one of these, maniac group texts that I'm on with my maniac friends. And I just posted it. I wasn't even thinking. And the artist was like, I want credit. So then I added credit for the artist because, it really is a work of art.
Yeah. I mean, who can possibly deny that? Chat, do you think it's a work of art? As I try to scroll and find this, where is this thing? Oh no. Okay, I found it. I use Twitter too much. Okay, chat. This is what we were discussing. Discussing? It's not disgusting. We're discussing.
No, it's beautiful.
And from what I understand, there has been a number of bimbifications of the boat.
Yeah, there's more.
Do you have like a collection? I'm now assuming you have a folder that has all the different versions of the boat.
Well, if you scroll
peruse
down, I think someone posted another one, and also I added whoever the artist was, which I'm blanking on right now.
The artist is Nylon at Nylon chat. I'm not going to click that because I don't want to get banned from Twitch.
Yeah, check that out for more.
This is another one. Oh no!
Versions of inanimate objects that you can get horny for.
I think maybe the coronavirus quarantine has gone on too long.
No, if a thing exists in the material world, people will get horny for it. That's just a law of the internet.
That's just a law of humanity. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm a little horny for the boat. TBH,
so now I know what you were staying up for. This is why she was late, Chad. This is why.
I mean, honestly, like the idea that you could just so easily shut off 12% of circulation for the whole global capitalist system, that's if you can't bust to that, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, there's a few places that are real tight for capitalism, and that if you fill them up, then it'll all be over. The system will collapse. Right. Yeah. Now I just need to see. I need to see my own images of Gibraltar filled up and Suez filled up, the Panama Canal, everywhere, just totally filled.
Fill them up.
This is content now. So what do you see? What do you see yourself? Going on? Like, what do you think about like the local politics of New York DSA and your own content? Do you have any like thoughts of stuff you want to explore in the future?
Oh man, I mean, there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff to explore. Mm-hmm, We've been exploring the canals. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna explore. Well, what am I doing right now? The Defund campaign. I'm on the action planning subcommittee for that, and
awesome.
I'm hoping
$10 billion, chat, for NYPD last year. Good use. That's more than like most major militaries. It's bigger than the Finnish military, the Swedish military. It's bigger than North Korea by quite a bit. That's just normal stuff.
It's so too much money. So our current goal is to cut the NYPD budget by half. And there are many different ways that we can achieve that. Are we going to succeed? I don't know. But I'm really impressed by all the things that my comrades have been doing in terms of like base building, political education, talking to people about this, getting it on their minds. And by the way, most of the people that I have talked to about it are already pretty familiar with the issue and super, super down. Like, you don't have to explain to a working class person in New York City why we should have fewer cops, because they already understand it for the most part.
I mean, Yeah. I mean, just walk around New York City and you see nonstop NYPD just lazing around doing fucking nothing.
Or harassing,
harassing
black
people,
teenagers or whatever. No, they're dicks. I would say most people hate the cops unless you're just a total fucking bootlicker. Like, this is an issue that unites most of the working class because no one has had a good experience with the cops. No one's ever like, oh yeah, this one time my bike got stolen and the cops were really helpful and they got it back for me. Like, that's not what they're there to do. They're not there to help you. If they happen to do something good once in a while, that's like not.
They'll laugh at you.
Purpose.
If you've ever had to file like an insurance claim for something, and you have to get a police report, like, and you're like, hey, is there any? They'll be like, yeah, we're putting our best men on it. Like, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, no.
Like, your shit is gone. I mean, like, how many? I had someone, a friend, I think it was like a girlfriend of mine, who had like a cell phone that was like yoinked from a library when she was studying, and she had to find my phone on, right? And it went to a house, and she was like, well, my phone is in the house. And the cops they don't give a shit. And good. First of all, I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's just, they're not going to do anything. They don't exist for you and your personal property. They don't exist to make you safer. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, how many untested rape kits are there?
Yeah,
Every jurisdiction is overflowing. They don't care about this shit. They don't care about you. They're not there to protect you.
Here's a news story from 2005. Justices rule police do not have a constitutional duty to protect someone.
That's right.
Like, this is a court case. It made it all the way up to the Supreme Court. A woman had obtained a court-issued protective order against a violent husband, and the cops did not protect her from him.
I remember the story because he came and killed the kids, right?
He kidnapped their 3 young daughters and eventually killed them. And the cops did nothing to protect her. And guess what? That's actually not their job. So if that's not their job, what is their job? And I can answer for you. Their job is to fucking all the most evil things you could think of, basically.
Yeah.
Like, the cops arose as a force to break strikes in this country, to catch runaway slaves, and to ethnically cleanse the Southwest of Mexicans and Native Americans. So that's not a good argument for their continued existence. And they still do all of those things in different forms. And what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So the Defund NYPD campaign is sort of an attempt to connect up, practical legislative campaign that we can do in the here and now with an abolitionist horizon, and kind of help people start wrapping their minds around that. And it has many different facets, different arms. There's political education. So they put on some really good programming to educate the public about the cops. And a lot of people, like I said, are already like pretty down. They have an action planning subcommittee, which I'm a part of, and I want to kind of help grow the connective tissue between these inside legislative campaigns and, the activity in the streets outside.
Absolutely.
Which I think is always going to be the most important thing and kind of the determining factor in whether we succeed or fail. We have a great slate running for city council. I know less about that, but defund is a pretty big issue for everyone that the DSA has endorsed for New York City Council. So that's exciting. Like, I like the idea that, if I got to fucking vote for someone, might as well be someone who wants to cut the police budget. So like we kind of have had like a spirited back and forth on the Antifada between folks like my friend Kay Gabriel, who we had on to give sort of a principled defense of defund campaigns from a communist perspective. We've also had on some of our more ultra-left friends like Arturo and Shaman. We did an episode with them. We did an episode with our friends Jared and Zana from Hardcrackers, who have a bit of a different idea. They have a critique of these legislative campaigns that can just, suck people into bourgeois politics and drain their energy. And like, they think we need to focus more on like base building and activity outside of, the system of bourgeois politics, and ultimately, like, yeah, revolution is the only thing that's really going to fix it. So, like, who do I agree with more? I'm not sure. But I'm like, well, what the fuck else am I supposed to do? I'm gonna help with the action planning subcommittee and go from there.
Yeah. That's what I love about DSA. It's one of the things that is that it encompasses so many different perspectives and paths. And the truth is, like, we can't direct everyone. If I could direct everyone to have the same passion and intensity about the thing that I care about, well, then that would be easy. If people are coming into politics because they heard about some electoral campaign, that's a win for me. You know, I'm definitely on the camp of someone who's saying defund the police, city council people if you can. While at the same time, also I want to do base building. Like, I don't really think they're at cross purposes. I just fundamentally disagree with that. Personally, from my personal experience and the way I became more left, if I could become more left this way, why wouldn't other people be able to do it? Seems bad not to have that as an opportunity for people.
Yeah, you never know what door people are going to come in through.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
And like, I will say, even if this legislative campaign to defund the NYPD fails, it will have created a lot of abolitionists, along with, you know, the uprising, the George Floyd uprising from last summer has created a lot of abolitionists. And once that issue is on people's minds, they'll dig a little deeper and say, oh, how do we actually do that? How do we achieve a world without prisons and police? Well, we have to overthrow capitalism, because that is a system that they are designed to uphold. And this isn't just some like newfangled rad lib bullshit that some people came up with on Tumblr. Like, this is an idea that goes back to Marx, Lenin, and Trotsky. Like, we know the purpose that the police and prisons serve within capitalism. It's not new information. And there are a lot of people doing really good work in shall we say, the abolitionist space, like the geographer Ruth Wilson Gilmore, who traces the material origins, the economic reasons why we've seen such a growth in policing and in prisons, and it's not because crime is going up.
What a day to
like, it's not a one-to-one response to crime. So you have to say, oh, well, what is it then? And
well,
it's a lot of things. Turns out.
And I want to defend abolition. I mean, one of the things that's wild to me is like how mainstream abolition was, 30, 40 years ago. And the evidence against prisons is so compelling. Even from a more like center left point of view, they just don't work. I mean, they're just bad ideas.
They don't keep us safe.
They don't work. And they give people more, mental illness. It's just dehumanizing. It's a destructive waste. Yeah. Just from a purely cost benefit analysis, prisons don't work and they're bad. And so, I'm glad to see, principled leftists and it becoming more and more mainstream, the idea that why are we doing this? Why are we locking people up in cages? It doesn't work. It's a waste of time, money. It dehumanizes everyone. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to read more about that and see more of your stuff on the Antifada.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much. We've done a few episodes on this topic because I think it's really important and it's on a lot of people's minds right now.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right. Do you want to keep going or are you good to go? Because
I got to run.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm getting a little hair trim in the city. I'm leaving tomorrow for vacation.
Wow, you got a vaccine and already like running around having fun. This is bullshit.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
I'm jealous now.
It wasn't my idea. All right. My dear friend Debbie has been down there in Florida for a minute, but it wasn't that hard to convince me because I'm kind of between jobs right now. / maybe I won't have to have a job after this, depending how my new project goes. I don't know. Still figuring it out, but what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I wanted to plug the Antifada Twitch before I go.
Hell yeah,
because I think it's good and I want people to watch it.
All right, chat. Well, I have my mods. They've been plugging it from time to time. So go over there. And when I'm not live, it's acceptable to watch the Antifada as well.
Dude, I don't know how you stream so much. Like we do a stream for like 2 hours and we're all so tired afterwards.
Well, it's a variety of personality flaws that just so happen to line up and make it so I can stream longer.
Like, are you talking the whole time? How do you do this?
I talk 85% of the time.
That's so much.
But I bring a lot of content in, and I try to link like the news of the day, the events that are happening with a historical perspective, a leftist perspective, and I try to muddle through the world that we're living in and give my best tactical position on what we should be doing, what we should be supporting, educate people. And there's, everything's interconnected and there's always some rabbit hole that I can go down. So I don't know. I enjoy it and I like hearing myself talk. So.
Well, I guess you found the job for you.
That's right.
I'm happy for you. I still don't know like how we translate to video, but we're trying it out. I feel like we're starting over in some ways because Twitch is its own world, really.
Yeah. Twitch is weird. And I was one of the first people to like try this, so I think I have like the first mover advantage as well. And my experience, in leftism and in politics in general has been valuable. So I think that you are one of those people that I would definitely endorse as somebody worth listening to, especially from a harder left perspective, because you actually put your money where your mouth is and you're entertaining. So everybody please check out the Antifada.
Twitch.tv/the Antifada.
Yeah, and they'll invite me on eventually.
Oh, you can come on anytime. We usually, so Sean streams video games on Monday. He has a small but devoted following for that. Wednesdays, we have our full crew show. Forever's Gonna Start Tonight, of course, named after the Time Abolition Anthem by Bonnie Dove. Little communization humor for you there. And then Thursday, I usually do Ladies Night, but it's a little tricky because I also have a defund meeting on Thursday, so I always have to like shuffle things around. And then Fridays, Andy and Courtney Soliday have a pop culture show that's super fun, and I'm usually on it too, along with Sean. But tonight, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'm always stepping on my own toes. Doing like kind of a soft, a test stream, shall we say, instead of Antifada Ladies Night. I'm having on two dudes, but they're good ones. They could be on Ladies Night. Aaron Thorpe from Trillbillies and A Time of Monsters, and Andre Domise. Who's just a really powerful poster, and
very powerful poster, legendary poster.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little test stream, see how it goes, because I'm working on a new project with them as well that I'll be able to announce soon, hopefully. So if anyone wants to see us in our very first incipient soft launch mode, oh my god, that's like so soon. Holy shit. Gotta do some prep for that. But yeah, I really like Twitch in general because it's just like our episodes of the Antifada have been they've been getting very serious and structured, more so than they used to be when none of us knew what the fuck we were doing. And the Twitch is a nice opportunity for us to, be a little looser again, hang out, chat. Like, I don't see Sean and Andy these days because, the pandemic or whatever. So it's like nice to just fucking chat with them because they're both really cool, interesting people with good things to say. And they both influenced my political journey a lot. I don't know if I've influenced theirs, but I hope so. And we have a good time. So check it out.
Well, thanks for coming on. Sorry it wasn't as structured as I promised with all the technical difficulties I had today. I've had a headache the whole time. So thank you.
Buddy.
Thanks for coming on. And I'll take you up on that. And anytime you want to come on, just let me know.
Awesome.
You may have to set your alarm though.
No, I know. Like, I feel bad that I wasn't more like fucking on the ball. I feel like
It's
every
okay.
time
Don't worry about it. I'm just giving
I
you
go
shit.
on a thing. But yeah, I would love to come back anytime. You come hang out on our stream, you know, across the streams.
We'll cross the streams.
One hand washes the other. So yeah, fucking solidarity, man. I am impressed. I'm impressed with what you've built here.
Well, thanks so much, and I will. Everybody, check out Jamie on the Antifada, and I will see you soon. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks, man.
We do politics here every morning, starting at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us here on Twitch. We're the morning guy, the morning politics guy. Politics Frogs in every single day, same time, 10 a.m. Day in, day out. And we carry you through your morning and early afternoon politics needs. And if you need more, Mike from PA, we have a YouTube channel. We talked about suburbs, the My Pillow guy, Ted Cruz. We talked about DSA. Amazing. Making fun of Tim Pool. Amazing. Look at all of these amazing videos. Get in there, watch them. We have me on Twitter. You got to follow me on Twitter, chat. I'm at 20,614 subs. That means I got like 40 followers on Twitter in the last day. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. Go follow us on Twitter. And of course, join the Discord, where we have an incredible community of left-wing streamers. We have left-wing community. We talk about the stream. We talk about politics. There's gaming content. It's a really awesome, supportive place. Direct action, mutual aid. And you can just let off some steam. And also, you can help produce the show. One of the things I do is I look at the links that are put into the news content suggestions chat room on the Discord. Join the Discord, come hang out, and maybe what you want me to talk about will be part of the next show.